Hello everyone. So today I will explain you zeolite or permeated process. This is a process which is used to treat hard water. Now I hope if you remember, hard water is that water which contains dissolved salt of calcium and magnesium. So what I want to target is I want to convert this hard water into soft water, and that means I want to target those calcium and magnesium ions which are present in the hard water. So if I remove those ions, the hard water can be converted to soft water. So one of the process which is used for that is zeolite process. Zeolite was derived from the Greek word xenlithos. So one geologist was working on a dome, and he found on the hill that there are certain green colored sand or stone particles which look as if they are boiling. That means a water is coming out of it. And based on that, xene means boiling and lithos means stone. Later on, the name for that particular compound was termed as a zeolite. Basically, zeolite are orthosilicates. They are basically having these metallic ions in them. Especially zeolite, which is used for water softening process, is sodium hydrated aluminosilicate. So it is normally represented as Na2Z, wherein Z you can call it as a zeolite network, which is quite fixed, while the other ions which are present in the network are nothing but sodium, aluminium, silicon, etc. So now if you look into the name of the compound, it is very easy to locate that sodium is written first. That means sodium is the ion which is quite free in the structure of the zeolite. At the end, silicate is mentioned. That means the major network is of silicate. Now, if you remember, silicate was a tetrahedra. And if you remember, SiO4 4 minus tetrahedra look like this. Now, this could make it in a chain form or a sheet form. That is how silicate exists. Now, imagine if I remove one silicate, silicon, which is Si4 plus in this structure, and in order to compensate that positive charge, I can dope it with aluminium plus 3, and then there is one more ion left, which is Na plus. So aluminium plus 3 can take up that space where silicon was there. But what about Na plus? So Na plus keeps on roaming in this. So Na plus does not get a space in the lattice to occupy. So it keeps on roaming in this, and that is why Na is free to react. And that is why we call it as Na2Z. So here sodium is free to react, hydrated because it is having water of crystallization attached to it. So I guess you understand that the water of crystallization is very loosely held. That is why it can come out easily of the network, and that's how it was boiling, because the water came out very easily. And then alumino. So basically it is sodium hydrated aluminosilicate. So you can see here the formula goes Na2O, sodium hydrated aluminosilicate. Now you can see x and y, these are nothing but integers and they vary in this ratio, and there are a lot many probability and combinations like permutations available for this, and based on that their name also changes. So basically zeolite is that silicate which is capable of exchanging its sodium ions. So this ion sodium is available for the exchange. The types of zeolite, it could be two. If you want to simply classify zeolite, you can simply say that first it is natural zeolite, which is available in nature. So a green sand normally can be considered as zeolite. And then there are different names, as I said, depending on x and y value. Here if you can see, those x and y's are varying. Based on that, they are available with different name. The second one would be synthetic zeolite. The name itself suggests that you are making it in the lab. They are completely artificial. You are making it, synthesizing it. So obviously you can prepare them because you know the formula, right? So if the formula is known, you can anyhow prepare them by using or selecting the chemicals. Like here, these chemicals are selected and they are used to prepare zeolite. Synthetic zeolite is also known as permuted, and that is why the another name of this process is zeolite or permuted process. Now let us go ahead with, like, up till now what we have seen, it could be natural and it could be synthetic, and basically it is represented as Na2Z. However, it is sodium hydrated aluminosilicate. So this is nothing but the pictures of zeolite available. Now go to the principle of water softening directly, though I can say that you have to first allow your hard water to come in contact with zeolite. Then what happens is calcium and magnesium ions which are present in the hard water, let's say calcium chloride is the hard water, and you allow it to react with the zeolite bed. Then what happens is Na ions are exchanged. So this sodium zeolite, which was Na, this is getting exchanged with this calcium. So what happens is it converts into calcium zeolite. So ultimately sodium zeolite is converted into calcium and magnesium zeolite. So basically the principle behind this water softening process would be reversible exchange of sodium ions with hardness producing ions. I'll later tell you how it is reversible. As of now, if you can take any hardness producing ion, be it magnesium sulfate, the reaction remains same. It is going to get exchanged by the zeolite. So the zeolite is going to convert into calcium and magnesium zeolite, and that is how the water is free from that calcium magnesium ion. Coming to the major reaction which I just disclosed right now is the common reaction. So basically whatever calcium and magnesium ions or salts are present here, if you allow them to react with the zeolite, zeolite is going to absorb that and it becomes calcium and magnesium Z. Now if you can focus on each and every reaction, they all are saying the same. The water now earlier which was having sulfates in it, which is of calcium magnesium, now it is of sodium. So basically it is free from calcium and magnesium, and that is why the water can be called as soft. Going to the process, you need to take a container which contains zeolite, and then you have to spray your hard water from the top, and you can get your soft water from the bottom. Let us see the process. Now the container looks like this. There is a zeolite bed which is coated on the bed of gravels. Now if you remember, gravels were always used for the filtration purpose, right? When you used to filter the water, you used to have that fine sand, then coarse sand, then pebbles. You increase the size of pebbles that we used to use for the filtration. So here also gravels means pebbles. So those pebbles we are going to use for the filtration purpose on which the zeolite is being capped. Now from here you are going to supply your hard water, and remember, hard water means dissolved salts of calcium and magnesium ions are present here. So dissolved salts of calcium and magnesium are present here. You allow them to fall on the zeolite. Now if you remember, the reaction would be this only. Let's say calcium chloride is present, and if it reacts with zeolite, your sodium is going to get exchanged and your water would be free from that calcium ion, and that water goes down. Now since your gravel is placed, that ensures the filtration purpose so that no sand particle or other particle is falling down, and from here you can get your soft water out. So this soft water means which is free from calcium and magnesium ions. That's simple. So what we are doing is water softening. So this is the one aspect of a zeolite process. Now what happens after certain time? Let me show you in my way. Like let's say this is the first step, right? And if I add hard water from top, right, and this is my zeolite, so I'll get my soft water from bottom. That's what we have seen up till now. But don't you think after some time your zeolite Na2Z will be converted to calcium Z and magnesium Z, and it may exhaust. So it becomes exhausted or saturated zeolite, because if you measure it, like around maybe some limited quantity of zeolite here, some limited quantity of zeolite is used, so there is highly likely chances that let's say 1 ton zeolite is used, so that is going to consume, that is going to be consumed, the sodium ions are going to be exchanged. So it's highly likely that there is a position when entire Na2Z is converted into calcium Z and magnesium Z. So now if I add hard water from top, do you think it is going to give me soft water? No, it is not going to give you soft water, because there will be no exchange reactions. There will be no Na2Z to get exchanged. And this step is known as exhausted zeolite. So for the third step, what I can do is I want a regeneration of my zeolite. I want my zeolite back. For that, what I want is these ions should get again converted to Na2Z. And obviously, I need to supply a solution which contains Na. So normally 10% NaCl solution, which is nothing but brine, is allowed to spray on the top again, and then here from here you can skip those washings, and at the end, at the fourth step, your zeolite will be regenerated. And then now if you allow your hard water to pass through it, definitely is going to give you the soft water. So in all, the overall process contains four steps. The first step, which is removal of water hardness, which is softening of water. In between, you have to take a pause because it may get exhausted, and you have to regenerate your calcium Z and magnesium Z back. You want your Na2Z back. So that step is known as regeneration, wherein you have to supply a solution which contains Na ions. Normally, NaCl solution is used to regenerate it, so that you can regenerate your zeolite back, and that's how you're again ready for the softening process. So let us go back to the procedure. We are done with the step 1. Now imagine if this keep on going, there'll be a one time where this Na2 is not left in the zeolite. So what you have to do is to regenerate it back. So this particular area is for regeneration. Injector is basically used to like inject that particular solution NaCl. As I said, you can spray it from here. So NaCl can be sprayed from here. NaCl, as I said, is used for regeneration. So when the reaction get reversed, I hope you understand, this NaCl plus calcium Z reverse, and you will be able to regenerate your zeolite back. That is why I said in the principle, if you remember, it is reversible exchange of sodium ions with hardness producing ions. Reversible exchange of this sodium ion with hardness producing ions. So that is how it is reversible. So now comes the turn of a backward direction regeneration. When you spray your NaCl, this sink portion will be used for discarding the washing. So this is a separate area, and this area is used to take your soft water. So I hope it is very easy for you now to understand that how does a zeolite softener work. You have to allow your hard water to come in from the top, and then your soft water can be taken from the bottom, provided the reaction is this. And at the same time, you are able to regenerate the zeolite back by giving it a wash with the NaCl, and then the process can go on continuously. This is how it looks like. I think you are able to understand this top inlet of hard water, and I think you are able to see this also extra container. So here also the same pattern is taking place. That's it. So regeneration, I have already explained. You have to regenerate your exhausted zeolite back, and the reaction is same. Whatever is exhausted, you have to supply a brine in order to get it regenerated, and that's it. So now coming to the advantages, if you can look on, zeolite softener occupies very less space. In comparison, those advantages, or the coming thing which I am going to discuss, would be in comparison to other processes like lime soda process or ion exchange process of water softening. So here it occupies a less space because a single container is used. Overall running maintenance and operation cost is comparatively less. It can remove hardness up to 10 ppm, so you can call it as a residual hardness. That means somewhat hardness is left in the water, which is around 10 ppm. So let's say if the hard water is around 2000 ppm hard, it will be reduced to around 10 ppm. So it is not going to nullify it, it is not going to have a 0 ppm residual hardness, but some amount of hardness would be left, and that is residual hardness. You may take it as a disadvantage also in comparison to ion exchange, because there the residual hardness is around 2 ppm. But then you can take it as an advantage also in comparison to lime soda, because there the residual hardness varies from 15 ppm to 60 ppm. So basically it is a variable. It requires less skill for maintenance, as of now. Once the process gets started, it will be over. And there are no impurities which are precipitated. Because in lime soda process there is lot much of the sludge which is coming at the end. So there is no precipitate formation, there is no waste formation at the end. That is why you can call it as an advantage. Now coming to the disadvantage, there are major disadvantages. Which one? First one is the treated water contains excess of sodium ions. When the excess of sodium ions, how? Because whatever calcium or magnesium is present in whatever ppm, let's say 1000 ppm, now the sodium ions are present in around 1000 ppm. So obviously the treated water contains then excess of sodium salt. And I hope you remember that there is one hardness which you call it as pseudo hardness. The word pseudo means false or fake. So this kind of hardness gets induced when excess of sodium or potassium salts are present. What I want to say is, let's say NaCl is in excess in your water, and if you treat it with soap, are you going to get the leather properly or not? No, you're not going to get the leather properly because the water is salty. Now, when you get that less leather, what you'll assume that the water is hard, but the water is not hard because it does not contain calcium magnesium, right? This not formation of leather is because of excess of sodium ions, and that is what known as pseudo hardness. You may assume that the water is hard, but it is not. It is a false and fake hardness. So treated water contains excess of sodium. Salt is a problem both for domestic level and for industrial level. It creates many problems later on. Secondly, anions are not treated here. Only cations are treated, which are calcium and magnesium. So anions need to be treated because they also interfere with the quality of water. They can make the water acidic or basic. And basically the treated water contains more dissolved salts than treated by other processes. So your TDS value increases here. Now coming to the limitations. Limitations means the process has a limit to it. It stops working. When you call it as a disadvantage, now disadvantage is like you can anytime convert it into advantage by removing this negative factor you can remove, and it will be advantage. So disadvantage, what we discussed was these, and with them also we are okay, the process is working. But in limitations, what happens, the process stops working. So the process has a limit to it and it stops working. That is what the limitation is. So disadvantage you can take care of and you can remove those problems, but limitations are a problem and the process does not even work. Forget about giving you negative result or positive result. Now let's say what are the conditions wherein the zeolite process can stop working. The first is turbid water. Turbid water means the water is having turbidity. So it is having those suspended particles, or it is having those colloidal particles which are present as impurity. And if they are present, it should not be used for treatment. Definitely, because it is going to clog the pores. So the zeolite pores are going to get clogged because of those impurities, and that is why it will immediately stop working. The second limitation is the colored ions. If the water have those ions, they are also going to get exchanged by sodium. But at the same time, there is a problem related to regeneration of your zeolite. So the regeneration of Na is not possible properly, effectively when these ions are getting exchanged. So this is a limitation, that the water should not contain these colored ions, otherwise the sodium will not be regenerated. So that is a limit to the process. The process immediately stops working. And the last one says that the acidic water should not be treated, because if the water contains those H plus ions, it is going to destroy the zeolite pad. Destroy the zeolite, because zeolite is Na plus and H plus competes with that. So it destroys the structure of zeolite. So acidic water should not be treated. So basically you have three limitations here, that the water should not be turbid, it should not have colored ions, and it should not be acidic. That concludes the zeolite process. So I think today I am able to give you a glimpse of the zeolite process, wherein zeolite is derived from two words, zine lithos, which is boiling stone. It is represented as Na2Z, where it is sodium hydrated aluminosilicate. It could be natural and it could be synthetic, and overall principle would be reversible exchange of the calcium and magnesium ions with the zeolite, so that the zeolite absorbs that calcium and magnesium easily. Then here regeneration is also possible, and there are certain advantages to it. The disadvantage being that it gives excess of sodium salt, which induces pseudo hardness. And there are three limitations also, that you should not use turbid water, acidic water, and the colored ion should not be present in zeolite. So I think with that, this video was of good help to you. So thank you so much.